Alrighty, daily trading recap for Monday, the 6th of December, 2021. Starting off the week again, pretty. That's just kind of what today was in. Still in the situation with the market of, there's always opportunity, just like every single day of the stock market, there is always opportunity to make money. Mark Crook is making over 100K on some Nvidia and what other puts as well. He was absolutely crushing out there. So there is always opportunity, but just to say it's slapping you in the face, just like anywhere, everywhere you look, is just opportunity oozing out of every pore of this. It's just really not there, to say the least. Another really, it's kind of like disappointing scanner pull up this morning. We had a few little movers, ACET, TOMZ. I mentioned those ISIG, which ended up moving very, very nicely later in the day. But just nothing hugely awesome, crazy for morning volatility. Nothing, in my book, at least for what I'm seeing or trying to tackle that way. But still remaining short bias, and of course, I'm still paper in everything I'm doing, just because because I've still not found anywhere near consistency as a trader for myself as of yet, and especially in this type of market too. I'm definitely pushing harder on the experimental and the educational side of it, while just completely disassociating myself from that objectification of money and that attachment to money. So yeah, I think that's all I have for the introduction. I found dilution tracker for the first time today too. Awesome little resource there. I'm definitely going to start using that more in the future, maybe go in the premium option that way. Market internals on the day, I'll mention dollar volume NASDAQ just under $300 billion volume, NYSE's $350 billion volume, OTC's $3 billion volume on the day. Good to see some nice little dollar volume to start off this second week of December. And that's by a little reclaim day here. Looking on the daily, that's where we are at as of right now. Just all in reference for me as I'm watching these videos in the past. Let's get into the charts now. TOMZ was again paper short this one. This former little mover here, I think that was also short last week Friday too. It's been in this little tiny run up these past 3-4 trading days, where it had a nice little move here into the close of this last week Wednesday, still holding this little range. News catalyst on that last week Friday, and then news catalyst today as well too. That was some with Amazon store, whatever BS news it's pumping out again here. Just as recap reminder for me too, it's like a 10 million, 16 million-ish around their float. H.C. Wainwright, former player, banker, it's got like a 45 million shelf still left, $45 million of a shelf still left on it at this point. So it wasn't so convicted, pressed hard on this one to just be what I would consider a morning dumper. This is a little bit different of a situation, of course, because it's in this continual hold of a range, these former previous days with big volume. I would not be looking heavy on this one or trying to match it well to my morning dump, because it's just not a random first day big spike news catalyst mover, because it's just done this over and over again. How many times can it do that, repeat that same lightning strike in the same spot twice, I think is the example I'm looking there for. So still just like, okay, well, maybe we get a decent little pullback in pre, but I'm certainly not going to bet that this is just a full nice fader after an initial spike. And that's really kind of what it did. So proving me wrong on that point. But just watching as this one pulled up, watching the level 2 time and sales action go through. We're getting a perk here on a little bit of volume, just instantly rejected. Obviously strung in a few shorts there. That spikes to an even higher move here. A little decent percentage move, not the most awesome or stupendous. Very good. I'm not going to deny it there, just continue to go on that way. But not insane, blow your socks off percentage move. But still respecting the float in that sense too, for how low it was along with that. So we get this little instant mirrored move down after that new high of day perk there, attract in the shorts. Now perks to a new high of day, which gets a huge volume exhaustion candle here compared to what it's been doing these previous little run-up candles. So I just stab in with a little paper short. As I was watching too, we got a huge seller on 2-3, a huge wall of sellers at 2-3. It perked above like 231, 232 for a little bit. But as I was seeing that 230, for some reason, even though it did blow through that and we were sitting above it for a good decent little while, it is a kind of not a half dollar level, but a round percentage price level. and just seeing how big that was quickly, and that it didn't have the strength to continue on further beyond that after it just did that huge exhaustion as it did collect through that wall of bidders. I said, okay, I'm just going to play on a hunch. And that's what the opportunity of this paper trading allows me to do, is just say, wow, I don't have a lot of huge, amazing, incredible factors going for me. I can line up some. I can pick apart this little technical, the fundamental part of it, of the shelf, the HCN, right? The manipulation of this company, of just potential overhead here on this bleeding daily of where we're at, of all these, pick your technical level. It's not a huge volume of overhead as we compare to what we're trading these past few days, but just pick any type of analysis that you can put on this, and you can find a reason to potentially get short in it. So that's just what I'm going on to say. What's working? Is that applicable? Am I just picking up dandelions here and just blowing smoke up my butt of what I think I'm trading, or is there's actual fact sentiment to what's there? So the big thesis for this individual trade was, okay, we got a huge volume exhaustion candle there. I'm just going to trade off of that. It's going to require a lot more volume to push this thing to a new high of day. Even if it does push it to a new high of day, I'm not going to be so scared out, because to push it so far exponentially past what that high of day would be, it's got to become a whole new trend. How many times I've been in this little fake out arena, it's just not even scary or just not even funny anymore. Like, this is a perfect little 2-minute pullback here. And it was even more perfect that, and of course that's, as a side note too, just so tough that I can't actually trade these through TradingView in pre-market short. I just have to mentally be in it, because it is a totally different animal when I have to push a button, when I get filled, when I don't get filled, compared to what I'm doing now. I've just kind of mentally taken notes here. It's a little bit different, but trading it live too, in that sense, is practicing how I should and feel for what I have right now. But even here, I'm saying, like, okay, we're holding at 2.2. It should be breaking down, busting hard. We should be almost breaking through VWAP here within this mini candle, if the trend is actually going to be confirmed that this thing is dead and that reversal has started from that pre-market spike. But it's holding here, and I'm saying, okay, if I'm in this one, I'm going to cover half. I'm going to just take off half here, thinking that we could get a potential new spike to new high of day, a little fake out. And that is exactly what happened. So now I'm in a totally different trade, where now I can really kind of allow myself to say, okay, what's going to go on from here? The risk reward levels are just totally thrown off, and they're not really calculated to a science whatsoever. Just with everything with this, though, of how far would I have let it go, of if there is more volume coming, or if I'm just kind of bag holding at that point as a short. But it kind of keyed into everything that I was thinking of. Gets to a little fake out, and it's very unpredictable to say. I wasn't expecting this we got a new fake out and immediate rejection as it hits 2.4 with even bigger volume than anything in pre-market here, and slaps down perfectly to VWAP at that point. Certainly wasn't expecting that, but was definitely plotting, and how many times I've seen these do this little fake out after that big volume exhaustion point. Continuing to build that awareness and continuing to strengthen my resolve to potentially say, well, maybe I should start a little bit of like boxing as a practice, not actual Rocky Balboa, but boxing a trade of, okay, wow, I'm seeing a build up on 2.2 here. Why don't I cover in my other account, however many shares I'm short, through my margin account, and saying, okay, I think we're going to break a new high here. If it comes back, if I do get a little bounce, and if it starts to break that low again, then okay. It's always practice, of course, and execution for what I'm seeing. But this was a great example here of, okay, I'm seeing a little bottom here, put in at 2.2. Let's box this out here. We get a perfect and immediate, very fast move in this candle here that breaks a new high of day that would have normally stopped me out short. But now that I have the box in that trade, I can say, okay, where do we go from here? I'm protected all the way up, and as we get this immediate huge rejection back down, I can cut even for break even just a little bit above, to say, wow, that is an acknowledgement of the top being put in there if I've ever seen one. And then we get a nice little ride down the rest of the way there. So then pretended to cover the rest of the half as it was breaking this $2 level. Thought we would get, did not expect it again to break down as hard as it did, especially into market hours. Thought we would just get a little bit more play, maybe reclaim VWAP a little bit closer to market hours or the morning open. That's the way the cookie crumbles. There's a lot left on the table for that trade, and hard for me to say that I was so fully involved or learning from this one. I think is the best way to put it, because it's just, I want to be pushing the buttons. I want to be actually, even if it is paper, there is that little learning hitch that you don't get just from me like mentally writing something down on a paper, or me saying out loud, okay, I am short here at 2.3 at this point, 500 shares, whatever I was saying. There is totally different. So yeah, I got to find something to get past that, to actually get the experience of pushing buttons in these ones that way too. But great experience on this one, and kind of great replication of it's doing a lot of what you think it's not going to do, but it's still in line with the trend is your friend, and identifying the key points to understand what these charts look like and represent, and just following alongside them with them, taking the best opportunities that we have here, the best playable opportunities that are in the realm of kind of identifying some signs to understand what a entry for the trade can look like, what an exit for the trade could or should look like. Taking the best opportunities we have with that and moving forward, learning from them in this market that we have now. That's all with TOMZ ACET. Mark this one, big market percentage mover float on this one, just as a reminder or just reference for me. It's a biotech. We love 12 million floater here that I see. They had news catalyst at 7 a.m. Positive clinical 1 data for their first phase 1. Was it phase 1? Yeah, whatever data that was on this one. Kind of horrific little daily here, but in a little bit of an uptrend, which I don't normally like to trade upon, or doesn't have such a great check mark for the box, but I'm doing a pre-trade checklist in my own head for that sense. So it is kind of still downtrending, but even though it is small, it's a little bit of, okay, there's some amount of uptrend. It's not going to force, if I'm a bag holder looking at this one and seeing we're in this little bit of a rise here, the confidence is a little bit shifted. It's not so much in the sense of panicking that any sign of life for these stocks would hint me to say, okay, this could be my only opportunity. Let's get out here. Versus this chart here where, okay, we had a bottom put in. We're in this 3-4 months of uptrend to say, well, okay, we got a nice day here. We're up 38% at the close. What do we, top out, come to 15, 6, 7 here. That's pretty high, but, maybe we are continuing on. Maybe this is start of something new. So that's a totally different mentality with giving any of these a little bit of life can do, in my book, of change the perspective of any long-term bag holders on these ones, not that one. Compared to if this thing was just, cut this chart off here before 2020. If it just this continual downtrending, stair-stepper, crow bleeding daily, that's a totally different story than compared to what we were doing here just very recently in that sense. Other than that, just so many fooling fake out breakdowns and breakups and Taylor Swift songs written about this chart today. We got to dump out of the gate right away. Well, I got to mention too here, Reverse Long in the chat. Huge conviction and huge size that he was saying he was short from this initial perk here, 7:42 Eastern time that was. So you got a nice little fade and confirmation, which I would consider the same thing too. Confirmation as it breaks under VWAP, but then you just get the immediate reversal. How many times have we seen that before? That breaks immediately to a new high of day, but that was the only exhaustion there. Then it starts to pull back to that little range it was trading in before, just under $14 here. Tries to break to the upside again, but pulls back below this little range, but holds 13.5 here. So just up and down and all around. Then you get fake out here and just tries and mind-boggling. So definitely on these ones, I try to stay away as far as I can. And it's just that feeling. It's just, I truly think it's just that gut intuition of understanding. If you're not in it super early, like a reverse long, to say your bet is before you can read that crystal ball, before there is more time for these to develop out. That is a trade that I normally would go with in the past, and kind of you're just throwing your cards out on the table saying whatever comes. I'm betting there is a probability that it does exactly what I think it's going to do, but there is also the probability that it becomes one of these today, which is just a range trader and a fake out machine of how many times it just goes up and down and all around. So definitely for tomorrow, for the next day, this is going to be a watch. See if we get any levels hold. I mentioned CPIX, which was kind of a great representation of what I forgot or just lapsed on of, hey, if they're in these little multi-day moves, they could continue to hold and move nicer, move very nicely in following days, because a failed bearish move eventually has to become bullish at some point. But that's besides the point. Let's get into what I was trading it for. My idea was, okay, I'm looking for the dip and rip first off, because I'm seeing a dump out of the open. Let's see if we're putting in any little base here. It was very quick that it just was selling off with big volume. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe we get a quick little reversal right back to VWAP for a nice little trade. It's not a huge percentage move by any means whatsoever, but at least it's something. I'm seeing a little bit of a base here. So got long. This is through my actual cash account. So I was long 2 shares, trying to play for any amount of holding here, but it just was not moving. And in that, it was too soon, too close to the morning bell for me to justify, okay, this is just a base still being put in here. I can still risk a low day. I thought it either had to happen immediately from there, or it just was no dice that it could still happen closer to that 9:45 time frame. But yeah, I wasn't going to give it that much of a leash this close. I was expecting or hoping, looking to trade on a quick immediate reversal that potentially would produce any move above VWAP that then on the reverse side I would get short into that spike to try and play for a move downward there. But just didn't really happen, fizzled out, so kind of cut for break even on that one. It tried actually reverse kind of close after that, but then immediately reverse, broke to new low day from there. Another fake out, added to this little volume fake out that tries to break again to the upside, breaks a new low from there, chops around. So many wicky candles and just mix match colors here that we're seeing. So then the thesis for me, as we're just in this very wicky and still downtrending chart here, as we're getting closer to the 9:45 or actually past 9:45 time frame, I'm definitely thinking, okay, this has shown as for right now that it just doesn't have the legs, or it's going to be super difficult. So that could, in my mind, turn a lot of people off and just end up making this one a bleeder, a dyer, which I would have thought it was if it didn't have that little bit of rise in the daily, like I mentioned earlier. So, okay, let's play for a little longer fade type of chart here. We get, I'm starting getting short here, paper around this point. We get another little fake out here that breaks so low day. I'm going, okay, I definitely, if I'm in this type of trade, I definitely need to keep it off of my main watch. I'm not going to put my full focus and watch every single tick. That is going to destroy me on this type of chart especially. So ended up getting a nice little fade, continues to pull, breaks under 12.5 here, but then reverses. We get a huge little volume surge. And that's really one of the bigger type of dangers with this style of trade, more so than any longs. And if you're long and them just dumping, you know what I mean? Of like, the probability in my mind is higher of these things just randomly kind of spiking if you're short, if you're in a downtrend type of play, versus if you're long and they just randomly dump out of nowhere. I feel the probability on these ones is a lot higher. That you have to be aware of the danger that can never get too comfortable, and you can never just sit easy or completely turn off the chart. You always have to be aware. And it just got to this point that, man, what am I? Okay, it's not really producing that slow, nice fade that I was hoping for, and it's just kind of a waste of time. Jack number 2 even put in the chat too. He was short the same type of thesis in my mind that I was thinking of, or at least I would hope that he was thinking that, okay, yeah, let's maybe play for a little bit of a fade, but it wasn't doing anything. It's just chopping. Now it's kind of back to break even here, this little range. So any amount of strength could just destroy this thing, spike it to VWAP, spike it through VWAP, and I just don't want to be a part of that for what the potential reward on this trade is just not there. So I was cutting it around here, which was almost right before another little perfect breakout that ended up, or breakdown that ended up being a fake out. And continued to grind this thing higher to VWAP, spike through with big volume, and then spike down under volume, just choppy, Willy Wonka in and out. And here we are again as it spikes back to the upside of VWAP into a halt here, taps to 15.67 for the high of day, and pulls immediately back all the way down under VWAP. Mind-numbing. Slam your head against the freaking wall. And then piggybacking off of the reverse long mentality too, I was mentioning that's the mentality that I have fallen into in the past, but I don't want to get into in the future, where it just becomes you're trying so hard and you're getting up so early, and these are really only the options that are seen here, and then it's like, well, these could be the only opportunities on the day. I got to go full size. I got to go big in this one. This could be the one. It could move nicely, move exactly how I'm expecting it to, but then you feel the need and the urge to throw an even bigger size on it because you feel like, there's a little bit of FOMO that, well, this is going to be the only chance I have. I can't make 10% 3 times today on 3 different trades. I can only make 10% one time. So that little bit of FOMO and how it catches into these types of trades, like this type of market today, is what I'm meaning in that. That is what I don't want to fall into with that style of trap to just trade it how I normally trade it. Understand that the market shouldn't change. The market to the downside shouldn't leverage me more on the individual single trade. I think it's a great mental rule to have for myself, that even if there's just a little bit of orange left to squeeze, you shouldn't try to squeeze harder on it to produce more juice. It's only the same amount of juice in there. It's even probably less amount of juice in there than what we're normally used to seeing. And there's not going to be any more juice. You're just going to end up like squeezing your own fist and hurting yourself to that way. So, and yeah, this one too of, man, how many ways, I kind of mentioned it a little bit with Tom's, but of how many ways in and out. The reverse long was thinking too that, okay, he's listing off all of the reasons and thesis for his trade, why he's short of, hey, there's this shelf here, there's this many outstanding shares, it's this kind of float, it's normally used to dump it here, blah, 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 blah. And I tend to read those and think, okay, at what point does it become confirmation bias? That, yes, I understand that, hey, those points are definitely valid, but at what point does it become just continually searching and filtering out any of the reasons that the trade shouldn't work, and just continuing to put on the reasons and just scour out, even if they're not the greatest reasons, but just put them on there, tag them on there to feed the ego a little bit that say, oh, well, this is another reason why the trade should work. And there's so many factors why this trade should work to the short side. Why didn't work? Oh, well, it's just because the market's stupid. The market's definitely wrong today on this one. And it's very, very easy to say that the chart and the market was just stupid on this one. And it was wrong today too, but in no way, shape, or form has the market ever been incorrect about its price. I think it's always usually right that way too. So that is the ultimate equalizer for what fundamental, technical, any other type of analysis leads up to. And leaning so hard or being so dependent on one side of the equation ends up just kind of toppling everything to collapse. So I think this was a great example today too. And I'll relate this one to CPIX a little bit too in the same light of that way too, but lost my train of thought of coming to these charts to say, or trying to put your opinion and your thesis on these charts, and they just do not care. It doesn't matter. Price will always be king, and it doesn't matter how much analysis or research you put into these. It's always going to win. Price is always going to be the determining factor. That is all with that one. Let's go to ISIG. Man, very nice mover here, closing at just under high of day, just tapping under there right in the after hours here. Did not expect this one to move as crazy as it did. It's a sub-million floater, or yeah, just around a million float. Very nice to see the crazy low float. News catalyst today was BS. Total just hogwash for what they put out today. And they are absolutely burning through cash, as it shows on the dilution tracker there. So definitely in the hopes to potentially raise money, and what an opportunity they have today to do that off of a just horrific daily here as well. But yeah, like mentioning, it didn't seem like this one was going to, it didn't seem like it was screaming, hey, I'm going to double in price here by the end of the day within this morning session. It was actually ended up turning to be a nice little morning dumper, or getting a short entry at the failure to maintain VWAP price here at this initial pre-market spike off of that news catalyst. Coming in at 7.2, if you're covering around 6.2, man, decent little trade there. Even if you're covering in pre around 6.6, is that, I think that's 10%. I can't do math that way, but yeah, just kind of chopped around. You get a nice little VWAP rejection here off a huge volume. I was actually looking at this one too short that way, and it was almost immediate that we were at kind of fooling around with 6.8, just barely tapped there, and just poof, all the way down, 6.4, 6.3. So very quick little pull there, but just didn't offer much. It was at 2 minutes and immediately reversed back to the upside of VWAP to new high of day in market hours. It just kind of chopped around, blah, 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 hugged VWAP, and didn't show really any characteristics that, hey, if I build up a little bit of steam, I'm going to double, but certainly did that. It started to continue to press, hold very nicely, hug, and we just get this huge wave of volume, wave surge to squeeze. And maybe it was I didn't check the borrows on this one to see if it was just ridiculously kind of free and cheap shares to short on a very, very low float. But had that been the case, you could see a lot of other shorts with not a lot of other opportunity to get short into. Just looking at this one, that it's up so much for no reason to say, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely going to short this one. It's up way too much on BS News. It's a terrible company. Again, adding that confirmation bias to everything on this, and just continuing to back hold and get squeezed until it's like 200% against you, slap in your face that, oh, whoa, okay, I'm definitely wrong on this one. And again, another great example of price is king, and it's always got to be respected to that light too. So 2 halts that I'm seeing here that I had, 3 halts to that effect. So got very nice and squeezy. Can see some little long opportunities that I think Jack number 2 also was kind of capitalizing on with just a smaller position size for him around these little mid 11 areas. Call it a little consolidation here for a nice little spike as it was pulling here. And again, in this lower area, as it pulled to and continued to hold, get to pop back up after this little candle. That's a nice little move here to a new high of day at that point. Great chart to learn from on a sub-million floater, right around a million floater there. Great little chart to see today too in a little bit of a slower market environment. CPIX, I'll mention last. Crazy move that I mentioned of do not let these charts go out of your watch list, your mind, because they continue. It wasn't like this one was awesomely holding, but looking on the intradaily, we obviously put in a bottom last week between Wednesday and Thursday here. Continued to rise and hold. It kind of just looked a little weak. It didn't die off. It certainly didn't break that risk level, but continued to hold nicely. Closed fairly well into the weekend here. Gap down a little bit off of that close, but continued to hold nicely. Continued to press and press, and just like ISIG, as it continues to hold and just test and test and test and slow grind into that point, then it's just all it needs is that little volume spark to just absolutely inferno bonfire up. That way too, so nice little opportunity on that one. If I was watching it, didn't play it at all today, but I correlate. I was funny to pull up as I was going through my old videos too, talking about whenever the 30th. This was, on November when I played this one. Try to play it short, try to play it long, but just again of how I called it range bound because it really doesn't have trend for the day. It's just kind of the sentiment for the day on this type of chart was we're just here to screw you over. You can scalp it a little bit here and there. Maybe you can get away unscathed and come away with a nice little profit on some of these moves here, but just the overall mark on these ones is flip a coin, right? Of do we want to go down? Do we want to then spike crazily above VWAP for no reason, then close kind of nicely here? Who knows? It's just kind of the flip a coin, toss to the wind on some of these days. So a little bit similar to the field of ACET of just, it's just sometimes some of those charts, and that's what the stock market is. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to line up ideally how we want to define it, how we want it to be. It is what it is in everything. So that is all that I had on today. Nothing hard or crazy convicted for me on the watch list as of right now, but we're going to do some more scanning later on tonight, and we're going to get some nice grub and a nappy in us so we can be well prepared for whatever is offered from the mother market. And I can extremely, sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.